Namaskar, Jai Shri Krishna. Enlightening Text 1, Text 2 and Text 3 of Chapter 6, Purusa-Sukta confirmed of 2nd Canto, the cosmic manifestation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 1, Brahmo Vacha, Vacham Vahanera Mukham, Kshetram Chandasam Sapta Dhatavah, Havya Kavyam Rutan Nanam, Jivva Sarva Rasasya Cha. Lord Brahma said, the mouth of the Virata Purusha, the universal form of the Lord, is the generating center of the voice and the controlling deity is fire. His skin and 6 other layers are the generating centers of the Vedic hymns, and his tongue is the productive center of different foodstuffs and delicacies for offering to the demigods, the forefathers and the general mass of people. The opulences of the universal form of the Lord are described herein. It is said that his mouth is the generating center of all kinds of voices and its controlling deity is the fire demigod. And his skin and other 6 layers of bodily construction are the representative generating centers of the 7 kinds of Vedic hymns like the Gayatri. Gayatri is the beginning of all Vedic mantras and it is explained in the first volume of Srimad Bhagavatam. Since the generating centers are the different parts of the universal form of the Lord, and since the form of the Lord is transcendental to the material creation, it is to be understood that the voice, the tongue, the skin, etc. suggest that the Lord in his transcendental form is not without them. The material voice or the energy of taking in foodstuff is generated originally from the Lord. Such actions are but perverted reflections of the original reservoirs. The transcendental situation is not without spiritual variegatedness. In the spiritual world, all the perverted forms of material variegatedness are fully represented in their original spiritual identity. The only difference is that material activities are contaminated by the 3 modes of material nature, whereas the potencies in the spiritual world are all pure because they are engaged in the unalloyed transcendental loving service of the Lord. In the spiritual world, the Lord is the sublime enjoyer of everything and the living entities there are all engaged in his transcendental loving service without any contamination of the modes of material nature. The activities in the spiritual world are without any of the inevitabilities of the material world, but there is no question of impersonal voidness on the spiritual platform as suggested by the impersonalists. Devotional service is defined in the Narad Pancharatra as follows. Sarvopadhi Vinirmuktam Ta Paratven Nirmalam Rishikesh Sevanam Bhaktir Uchchate Chaitanya Charitamritamadhya 19.170. Originally, since all the senses are produced of the Lord's reservoir of senses, the sensual activities of the material world are to be purified by the process of devotional service, and thus the perfection of life can be attained simply by purifying the present position of our material activities. And the purifying process begins from the stage of being liberated from the conception of different designations. Every living entity is engaged in some sort of service either for the self or for the family or for the society, country, etc. But unfortunately, all such services are rendered due to material attachment. The attachments of the material affinity may be simply changed to the service of the Lord, and thus the treatment of being freed from material attachment begins automatically. The process of liberation is therefore easier through devotional service than by any other methods. For in the Bhagavad Gita 12.5 it is said that one is subjected to various kinds of tribulations if one is impersonally attached. Klesho adhika taras tesham avyakta sakta setasham. Text 2. Sarva sunam cha vayosha cha tannase parmayane ashvino roshadhinam cha ghrano Moda Pramoda Yoha. His 2 nostrils are the generating centers of our breathing and of all other airs. His smelling powers generate the Ashwini Kumara demigods and all kinds of medicinal herbs, and his breathing energies produce different kinds of fragrance. Text 3. Rupanam Tejasam Chakshur Divaha Suryasya Chakshini Karnau Disham Cha Tirthanam Shrotra Makash Shabdayoha. His eyes are the generating centers of all kinds of forms and they glitter and illuminate. His eyeballs are like the sun and the heavenly planets. His ears hear from all sides and are receptacles for all the Vedas, and his sense of hearing is the generating center of the sky and all kinds of sound. The word Tirtha Nam is sometimes interpreted to mean the places of pilgrimages, but Srila Jiva Goswami says that it means the reception of the Vedic transcendental knowledge. The propounders of the Vedic knowledge are also known as the Tirthas. Hare Krishna.